Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend just a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
Caw.
Oh, and that must be our co-host, Ted Raven.
Caw?
Caw.
Hey everybody, my name's Ted, and I'm here because gosh darn it, I love talking about cards. You know that? I don't know if you knew that about me, Dave, but if you didn't, I'm telling you now.
Yeah. Yes, Ted. Yes. Well, anyways, let's tell all the listeners how they can partake, so to speak, of Card Talk. Well, we have our weekly show, and that's always, we have it on audio. If you didn't know, we have an audio side, and then we have a video side on YouTube, so you can find us either place there, or you can find us on a written side. Matt does a written review of all the episodes that are linked right to the audio shows and the video shows and all that stuff. So we have that, and then we have Second Breakfast, which is Card Talk's live playthrough that happens every other Sunday. I think Micah moved recently, so I think it's a little sporadic now, but I think he's starting to get back in the swing of things. So so that's good. And then of course, Ted, there's us.
And here we are.
And we're ready to talk about what card today, Ted?
We're going to be talking about the Raven-winged Helm, which I'm excited to talk about. It's going to be a good episode. This is what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's not familiar with the Raven-winged Helm, it is a 2-cost tactics attachment that has the traits item and armor. It reads, attached to a hero with sentinel, limit 1 per hero. It has the response, exhaust Raven-winged Helm to cancel 1 point of damage just dealt to attached character. Pow.
I mean, is it pretty obvious that this goes on Baragond, right? Like
100%.
This is Baragond's helmet, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it is like the traditional Raven-winged helm, which you see featured. You see this style of helmet on many Gondorian characters in the game, like more than just Tactics Baragon. Correct. You see it in a few other. You see it featured in like other Gondorian art, which is cool. This is like their style of armor. On here it is represented in the game, just the helmet itself. But it's 100% a Tactics Baragon card, because
it could even be, I mean, I don't want to interrupt, but it also could be Spirit Baragon, because Spirit Baragon gives you the threat reduction, right? If you don't take damage.
Yeah, absolutely. Like for both of them, because Tactics Baragon, he gets to reduce the cost of armor by 2.
Right.
So you play this card on Tactic for nothing. So
right.
I always include 1 copy. Sometimes 2, but like always include 1 copy with like, because if you draw it, you just get to play it on him, which is awesome.
Right.
And you're right, Spirit Baragon will reduce somebody's threat by 1 if he takes no damage, and this will cancel damage to then trigger his ability. So it's very helpful.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, Baragon is a powerhouse of defense, right? And so, you know, I think that you start off talking about the Baragons, but then, like, does this go on to other Sentinel? You know what I mean? Like, how much?
I really wish. So I think this card is great because it does have the flexibility. It doesn't say from an attack. It's anytime the character takes damage. So that could be archery.
Right.
that could be a treachery card. There could be
Mm-hmm.
there's multiple ways to take damage aside from just combat. So that's the flexibility of this card that I love. It's one free damage per turn you get to cancel as long as you have it.
Right. And so, I mean, it's really good. So if you think about other people who are going to be taking, and so, I mean, I guess because it goes on to Sentinel heroes, right? It's a hero, right? Attached to a hero with Sentinel. I guess it's one of those things that, it's designed typically for those people who are going to be, or those heroes that are going to be defending. But that doesn't mean that it has to. But then then you ask, though, what are the heroes other than Baragon that it goes on? Does it go on every other Sentinel? Like, does it go on Erkenbrand? Does it go on Aragorn? Like, it doesn't. It's not restricted, so it doesn't take up a restricted slot, right? So it's not. You could put it on Gwaihir, like. You could put the Raven Winged Helm on the King of the Eagles. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm, like.
So I was actually just thinking, you said that, and I was like, David can't go on Gwaihir. But you're 100% right. Gwaihir is ranged and Sentinel, and he cannot have restricted attachments. But You're right. This is not a restricted attachment. That's a very good thing to point out. So it doesn't count towards your limit. You can have this in addition to your 2 that you normally have, unless you're breaking the rule through some other card like Contract or Golden Belt.
Right.
100%. How come I never realized that? I've been.
This is why we do this,
I learned.
Right? So everybody, this is the whole reason why we started this show in the first place, is just to inspire people to try new things with cards in the game.
Tiny cute little helmet.
Right. Maybe that's the tiny crown. Maybe it says, for the experienced community people, maybe the Raven Winged Helm is
It's an eagle winged helm.
Yeah.
For Gwaihir.
Yeah, for Gwaihir. Yeah, we got it.
So I would say 2 cost is a bit steep because I'm so used to playing it for free. I really wish it cost 1. I really, really do. But there are a couple heroes, and Gwaihir is a great example because he's actually very restricted in the things that he can equip.
Right. But so he's actually not restricted.
He cannot have he can't have regular restricted items.
Right.
But he is a hero with Sentinel, and his card, like, I keep reading it to make sure. Like,
you're looking for the thing. You're like,
wait, I'm
where's
looking for
the catch?
Thing. But he says cannot have restricted attachments.
Right.
That's it. That's all he says. This isn't restricted.
Well, that's not all he says. But
well, yeah.
He also says.
Ravens and Eagles in Middle Earth sound the exact same, by the way. They
right. Yes, that's true.
But yeah, like, there's Theoden, there's Leadership, Gimli, Erkenbrand. So Erkenbrand, we will just we'll bring up him as a rules thing. Erkenbrand is the Sentinel hero that has the ability that says when Erkenbrand is defending, response, deal 1 damage to Erkenbrand to cancel a shadow effect just triggered. Totally awesome ability. Check out that show if you want some more detail on it. And I think we mentioned it in that episode too.
Right.
That you cannot, if you cancel the damage, you do not get the ability.
Right. It's a cost. So
if
you cancel the cost, you don't get the ability. You actually have to pay it.
You go to the Middle Earth store and you're like,
right,
I'm going to give you this damage to the cashier for 1 cancel shadow effect. But then if you say, nah, I'm keeping this damage, I'm going to take it away. Like, you don't get the cashier's like, sorry, transaction incomplete.
Right.
You do not get the cancel shadow.
Right. Off to the shadows you go.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess,
but
obviously this card goes on to a very limited number of heroes.
Right.
And so, like, do you put it in all the decks that have tactics access and then put it on Spirit Aragorn?
Yeah. Like, it really depends. It depends on how that hero are you actively using it as a sentinel defender or just a defender period? Are there items that are less expensive that give you more defense or the same sort of effect? Um, you have to kind of weigh all that. There are some tricks too that if you grant a hero sentinel, you could equip this. So for example, there is the one cost leadership attachment called Dunedain Sigil. Remember how I used to know all cards by heart? It's the Dunedain Signal. Dunedain Signal attached to a hero, attached hero gains sentinel.
Right.
Pay one resource from the pool. You can move this card around. So if you play this on a hero, they gain sentinel. They then have access to this card, but then you have to have it first.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of work to do just to get this. Now, if you're building a deck for multiplayer and you're like, I'm playing, like leadership. I used to make leadership Dane sentinel all the time with that card.
Right.
Because he's still just 3 defense and 5 hit points. Leadership Dane's just a good defender. And I would be like, oh, I'm going to make him sentinel so I can defend for other people. If you're doing that, yeah, you could then get access and play the Helm on him. But like I said, I think it's better. It's a little more efficient, I think, to not have to rely on those effects. Because if you draw this card before that, it's just kind of a dead card if you have no targets for it.
Mm-hmm.
Although you can put it on someone else's hero that has sentinel. So if they're playing some version of Aragorn that is not tactics.
What about MOTK heroes? Are there any allies that have sentinel that you would want to?
There are. That's a great question, actually. So there are a couple of.
I'm trying to think.
There's a couple of unique allies that have it. So there is Darrowwine, who is tactics and sentinel. Dwalin, Spirit Dwalin, Eldahir.
I mean, you could make Eldahir a hero MOTK, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Wait, Elrohir? Is that who you're saying?
No, I'm saying Eldahir.
Eldahir.
Who's a Dunedain?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm
sounds
thinking...
very similar. Jubair. If you're playing Jubair, which is the Spirit Sentinel 3 defense ally, that when he exhausts defense, he gets to discard a face down shadow from a non-unique.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, you're removing shadow cards, so it just becomes a game of math, right? So you're like, so the more defense items you have on him, the stronger attacks he can take, and you can calculate damage.
And he's not a bad, he's not a bad MOTK hero too.
Yeah,
you get a defender, and you can get rid of a shadow card. It's like Erkenbrand's brother.
Well, yeah. So if you're running that and you have access, I would probably put in 1 copy if I was running a Spirit Tactics deck. I was like, okay, because if I draw this, I would like to boost his defense or put on damage mitigation.
Right.
So there's
as long as they're heroes. So
right,
that's
which
the thing. Like
the Messenger of the King contract makes them a hero.
Right.
Yep.
Or Sword Thane.
Yeah, you could Sword Thane them as well, also granting them hero.
Right.
So you could do a ridiculous amount of work where you make an ally a hero and then make them sentinel and then play this card. And I would just be impressed.
Right. It's hard enough to get a 2-card combo to fire, and then if you're trying to get
a 3-card that costs 6 resources.
Yeah. It's like, and I finally got the Raven Wing Helm on Quick Beam.
Yeah, like, hey, whatever floats your boat, I will cheer you on as you defend me from attacks, because apparently you're equipped to do that with your Sentinel hero.
Yeah, actually, Quick Beam's not Sentinel, but
anyway. So but you could make him Sentinel.
Yo, you can make him Sentinel. Right.
The other way to gain access to Sentinel too, and this is more tricky, is ally Spirit Arwen. That
Oh,
when
right.
she exhausts, she grants a defense in Sentinel. The tricky thing is with her is you're playing an attachment during the planning phase,
Right. So you
and
have
you'd
to get
have
an
to,
attack during planning phase, or
or
you'd have to give her a reason to exhaust during the planning phase.
that's it.
Right.
So, which I feel like there are some cards that let you do that. I was thinking Very Good Tail, but that's specifically oh no, that is an action. Yeah, Very Good Tail's an action. So you could use Very Good Tail, but then you're playing with 3 spheres, right? You're playing with spirit, leadership. But there are cards like that where you exhaust the ally for some effect that then triggers her response, and then that character has Sentinel, even though it's temporarily has Sentinel, it's enough to play the card. And then it doesn't fall off or get unequipped because you met the requirement at time of play.
Right. And that's actually, I was just about to ask you what the rules thing is. So if it loses Sentinel, if you get rid of the Dunedain signal because you have to get rid of an attachment, do you lose the Ravenwing Helm?
That's a great question, and the answer is no, because that could happen. You could lose an attachment, and if I had to choose between those two, I'd probably lose the Sentinel ability, depending on the scenario. But yeah, because you met the requirements when you played it, the game is not like constantly checking. It's just it checked
Doesn't
at the
check
time.
with this.
It checked at the time you played it. Like
Right.
you met the requirement when you played it, and that's all that matters.
Right. There's other times where it constantly checks, but
Yeah.
not
Not
for
when you
playing these cards.
play cards like this. Yeah. So, yeah, great question.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's plenty of good targets. You can do some extra work, like we mentioned, but I tend to, like I said, most commonly run it with either version of Baragon. 100% Tactics Baragon. Always include. I always include one copy.
As a little sidelight, I've always wanted to do like a Tactics Baragon. I've tried to put it together, like a Tactics Baragon, like gifts for the table deck with Long Lake Trader. So you get like the armor, it reduce 2, put it onto Baragon, and then take the Long Lake Trader and just like have the attachments go, all over the place. Which
well, yeah.
Or is it bartering?
Well, so yeah, that.
Like,
so you mentioned that with Long Lake Trader, and I thought there was something like I wish exhaust Long Lake Trader to move an item attachment from a character you control. Oh, yeah, to another eligible character.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So, like,
yeah,
as long as it can go on to, you just make sure you have to have, all your characters have similar traits, right? Like, it has to be items. So there's not everything is an item, but a lot of the, weapons and attachments are items and stuff like that. I don't know. Or weapons and armor are items. So,
yeah, that would absolutely work. It'd be kind of fun, and then you play this, and then so they would have to. So if they would have to be eligible. So just to discuss that from a rules point, you would have, if you Long Lake Trader Raven-Winged Helm, it would have to go to another Sentinel hero.
Right. Which is where Hero Arwen comes in, or Ally Arwen comes into play, right?
Yeah, you could be doing stuff like that. Like, hey, I'm
going to give that guy Sentinel.
Your Bomber is now Sentinel, and he gets a Raven-Winged Helm.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So, but yeah, it's a great card. There are limited targets, like you said. So I'm glad you pointed that out. And a couple of rules things, but its flexibility again to cancel damage is really nice. I use it to cancel damage from non-attacks all the time.
Right. Yeah, the fact that it's not limited to combat damage is really good. My friend brought this in his deck that we beat the Saga in, and he like he would consistently just cancel damage. Like it was like he would put it on. He had Theoden and Tactics Theoden, and he put it on Theoden, and it was like all of a sudden, like he was just canceling archery. It was like, oh, great.
Yeah, you could build a deck that it could be like Baragon, and it could be like Tactics Theoden, and
Bjorn the Old.
Bjorn the Old, right? And you could put 3 copies, and if you play them on all of them,
Mm-hmm.
and then every round you're like, I'll just take 3 archery and cancel it all.
Right.
Every round.
Right.
So that's cool. It's cool. I like this card.
What about the artwork? Do you like the artwork?
It's pretty like, it's like this card is a thing, and here's a picture of the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that this is good artwork. It's not, it's not horrible artwork. I wish the raven wings were a little bit bigger, and things like that. But
yeah, we in some other representations we see it like longer or bigger, and it looks like it's set down, like a soldier would have taken this off and put it down probably somewhere in Gondor. It looks like it's like at Minas Tirith, right? Like the white stone behind it. So yeah, it's not like extravagant, but it's accurate.
Yeah. It's accurate. That is it is
a helm
normal. That is a super normal picture of a helmet with wings on the side of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, should we ring this guy?
Let's take it. I would like to purchase one Raven Wing helm. Please ring it up.
Okie doke. So, for anybody who doesn't know or maybe new to Card Talk, we ring a card on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the one card to rule them all, or one of the best cards in the game, and a 10 is the card that gets thrown back into the fiery chasm from whence it was made, or one of the not so very good cards in the game. So, Ted, I think it's your turn to go first here. So,
yeah, I'm going to give it a 4 because it fits right into like, all right, I'm playing tactics. I need to deal with damage, right? It's damage mitigation is a great way to like replace healing in a way. And that's what tactics does. I can't heal, but it can damage mitigate, which is very similar. Right. And this card it's one of the few ways to do that. It's got a bunch of great targets, so it's flexible for all the reasons we said. I give it 4.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm gonna put it right in the middle and say that this is a great card, but it's limited use really. Again, when I look at a card, I look at it and I'm like, what is this inspiring me to do? And so, like, I've looked at this card and I've included it in decks, but it's not like I'm building, 17 decks, that include the Ravenwing Helm. It's like, it goes into that, that con deck that you're using that's got Baragon in it, and you're using to kind of help defend on the table and doing those things. But, it's kind of like the grease that helps that engine move forward. It's not the linchpin of any of those decks. Not to say that it can't be in some of those ways that you were talking about, like canceling. If there's a lot of archery, canceling 3 archery is huge in situations, but it's just not there for me. So I'm gonna go middle of the road. This is card number 5 in the Waste of Eriador, so I'm gonna go with a 5. So that's it, Ted. There we go. The Ravened Wing Helm. It's the Winged Raven Helm. No, it's the Raven. I don't know. It's that card with the picture on it. So everybody, we'll see you next week, and come back and we'll talk about more cards. Have a great day, everybody.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube And there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.